Cyprus has joined Spain in asking the eurozone to help shore up its struggling banks.
The news caused more nervousness on the markets, with shares in Italy, Spain and Greece falling sharply. Our correspondent Lisa Miller says Cyprus has been left exposed by the situation in Greece.
Well, there's no money on it yet, but they've certainly asked for a bailout, and that's made them the fifth country after Ireland, Portugal, Spain and Greece to ask for help. They're one of the smallest nations, Michael, but still the money they're talking about is possibly around €4 billion. I mean, that's just small change compared to some of the figures we've seen previously, but it's politically important. They've had a lot of backwash, they've called it, from Greece, a great deal of exposure, their banks. So what they're looking for is help for their second biggest bank, which needs about €1.8 billion by the end of the month to stay in good shape.
And while all this was happening, we got further details of the financial woes being faced by Spain, and it's asking for specific details regarding its bailout.
Yes, even though we knew this was coming, the bailout for the Spanish banks, this is actually the formal request, but they're still not actually putting a figure on it. Everyone was talking about €100 billion, but there's actually been some confusion about how it's going to be delivered still. So those negotiations, even though this letter does go into more of the specifics, there's still a lot of negotiations going on, including whether the money's going to go directly to the banks or be added to the national debt. You'll know which one the Spanish government would rather have in place. But while those negotiations occur, the money may not really be rolled out until possibly September for those banks. But all of it just created more of a mood of anxiety amongst the markets, Michael. So you saw that impact across the shares from Cyprus and Spain.
Now we have yet another, and they always seem to be critical, EU summits are happening at the end of the week, but sadly for attempts to try to get Europe back on track, a couple of key figures won't be there.
No, the Greek Prime Minister, who had eye surgery, he won't be there. And now we've just learnt in the last little while that the Finance Minister won't be there because he's resigned. He also was hospitalised a couple of days ago, suffering from nausea and a stomach complaint, and now he's pulled the plug altogether. And this meeting, and you do say another meeting, there's been about 20 of them. This was going to, and still will, look at some of the details for the Greek bailout and whether any of those terms should be loosened a little now. So quite extraordinary to think that the Greek Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, neither will be at this meeting.
And finally, Lisa, before we go, while I've got you, what's the latest on Julian Assange?
Well, he's still in the Ecuadorian embassy. I've spoken to various supporters today who say they've had no more word on when he might hear whether his asylum bid has been successful or not. But there was a letter of support that was delivered to the door of the embassy from some prominent Americans, including filmmaker Michael Moore and author Naomi Wolf, asking for Ecuador to tick off on this asylum bid. They had another 4,000 Americans sign a petition, but Ecuador says it's going to take its time on this decision now.
Lisa Miller speaking to us from London a short time ago.